Okay, I think we got enough of a critical mass here to get started, Ms. Secretary. We don't want to have you sitting there too much longer. Okay, why don't we've got a Department of Natural Resources (DNR) briefing on forest management, tree planting. We've got our Secretary Josh Kurtz here in the house, and why don't you introduce your team who's joining you at the table?
Absolutely. Thank you, Mr. Chair, Madam Vice Chair, members of the committee. It's a pleasure to be here to discuss forests with you all today. Wanted to start with a happy birthday, Mr. Chair. So we're excited to be here on this day. I'm assuming you scheduled it for that reason, a gift to you of some trees. So excited to be here today, and I'll let my team introduce themselves. I'll do the presentation, but they'll be able to help me with technical questions. So, Ann, introduce yourself.
Okay, sounds good. We've got your we've got on the screen, and we all have hard copies as well.
Great.
Yeah. Hi, I'm Dr. Ann Hairston-Strang. I'm the Maryland State Forester.
I'm Ashley Triplett-Peltzman, Associate Director of Policy and Planning with the Maryland Forest Service.
Well, thank you for having us. Today we wanted to discuss some updates on our Forest Conservation Act implementation, some audit findings related to FCA and the Mel Nolan Fund, and how we've worked to tackle those audit findings, and then an update on the 5 Million Trees program, which we're really excited to share with you all.
Ms. Secretary, first of all, are you going to go through this yourself, or are they here
I'll
for
go
questions?
through the.
Okay, well, as we go through, instead of waiting till the end, maybe if folks have some questions along the way, we'll just take questions along the way, okay?
Perfect. That sounds great. All right. So let me trying to scroll here. All right. So first, wanted to give you an update on where we are with the Forest Conservation Act updates. So in 2022, you all passed the most comprehensive reform of this piece of legislation that's been on the books since the 90s. This is a key piece of how we protect our forests, especially when it comes to the development phase. And what we've been working on as a department is multifold. And I think, frankly, one of the most important pieces of that was released in 2024, and that was the technical manual. FCA is primarily a locally implemented program. And so when development decisions are being made, if it meets a set of triggers, the county then would approve the plans for forest retention, forest conservation as part of the development package. And so the way the department works is we kind of have the umbrella that the counties sit within. And when this bill was amended, I think one of the great things that it did is it gave a lot more flexibility to the counties. It gave us a lot more opportunity to work with them in an iterative fashion to come up with programs that meet their economic, their development, and their ecological specificities of those individual counties in the city. And I think that is a real strength. It also then created opportunities for us to work directly with those counties on an iterative process. And while that has been, I think, going to turn out most effectively for forest protection and most effectively for the counties, it also has created a little bit of delays in a few of the pieces that I wanted to just discuss today. So we have the technical manual that's out. This really is everything you need to know if you are working on Forest Conservation Act as a county, as a planner, as a policymaker. It's an extensive piece of literature, hundreds of pages. It's that really gets into the nitty-gritty of it. And again, I think it's also important to note when we look at actual project review, only about 5% of those are done by the department. The other 95% are done by the counties within the context of their local programs. And so we've been working with the counties with a set of advisory committees to build out the regulatory package that will be coming in line July 1 for the state, but also working with them on a model ordinance, which we'll have out in the next couple weeks. The model ordinance really is the way to interpret that manual and suggested language for us in terms of a regulation that they could implement, but not necessarily the details of the program. That's really driven by the manual itself. And so where we are right now is, again, continuing to work with the counties on their programs. We'll have that umbrella regulation out coming this summer, and then really moving into that next phase will be the implementation of the new law after we get the July 1 deadline and those regulations out.
Senator Carrozza.
Thank you. You said we could stop along the way?
Yes, yes, absolutely.
So thank you, Mr. Secretary, for being here and your team, and also appreciate that you've actually been down in my district and spent time, looking at the forest management, working on that. It's appreciated when it's at a leadership level. Wanted to specifically, I guess, because you've mentioned now 2 or 3 times working with the counties, is there anything, again, from my given the prominence of, the forest industry in my district, anything that you can highlight in any of my 3 counties, Somerset, Worcester, Wycomico?
I think nothing specific jumps to mind, and if you let me know if you have a different kind of idea there. But basically, what we're doing is we're just helping them kind of craft how they're going to move the program forward, and this is specifically related to development of anything 40,000 square feet or greater. So not touching on industry as much as any of the timber industry pieces. This is really directly focused on development. So we've been working with the planners to ensure that they understand, and we've been doing this across the state, understand kind of the changes to the program and where they have flexibility to make their own, their own changes to the program as it has been operated over the past since '91, I believe.
So when you mentioned that you're working with the counties, are we specifically talking about the planning offices within each county?
Yes, that's correct. Yep.
Generally, yes, the planning.
Okay.
There's 2 things that we've been working on one with Department of Planning that came out a couple years ago that was helping local jurisdictions not create unnecessary barriers to industry. For example, the treatment of sawmills as, whether it's special exceptions or, just helping them understand where there may be unintentional barriers. And so that's been out there as guidance, and we are just undertaking another project specifically on the lower shore, Roots for Resilience. And in our watershed planner, Charlie Sager, is working with Department of Planning on forest assessments that will help counties have the base data to help them understand what assets they have for forest industry and management, as well as the environmental benefits that they're already well aware of.
Okay, and just if you can keep me updated throughout the course, specifically to my 3 counties. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, keep going there, Ms. Secretary.
All right. I'm going to move now into the audit findings.
Senator Washington.
Thank you very much. The Secretary and I jointly serve on the Chesapeake Bay Commission, and so we get to see each other every quarter. And we're doing amazing things in our state. And I know this is a big task, looking at the entire article. And as you said, much of it hasn't been updated since the 90s, and so a lot has happened. So I'd like to just better understand the forest conservation plans, because there's changes in that. So do you send a notice out, or actually, how does it work practically? It's like every county has to, or jurisdiction has to have a forest conservation plan, and it has to be developed, and there's certain components of it.
Do you want to talk about
How does that happen? How is that communicated? And then what is the review process of the plans?
So each local jurisdiction with planning and zoning authority takes the base from the state law, and then they have the opportunity to fine tune and craft it for their own set of ordinances. Some jurisdictions take something like the model ordinance that we should be seeing shortly and adopt that as a package. Many jurisdictions have the Forest Conservation Act provisions out into their various ordinances, zoning, subdivision, grading. The jurisdictions are supposed to submit their ordinance package to us for review, and then we make sure it either applies to that state minimum, or there is now in the new legislation, there is an alternate pathway where they can suggest a whole another plan with alternate afforestation, reforestation provisions, providing that it meets the minimum.
And then, just a question then. You share jurisdiction or protection of our waterways with MDE, right? Correct. So the forest conservation plans do they include any streams, or must they include any streams or waterways? Because
Streamside
it's talking about
zones.
clear, graph indication of the forest conservation and all the areas, the existing. So does it also reveal, in addition to the forest buffer, if there's a, a stream or
So the-
other natural, I guess, other natural features? Or is it solely focused on trees?
So the forest conservation plans are more focused on trees. We start with a forest stand delineation, and then the forest conservation plan is built out from there. So that's kind of like our understanding of the site. Within that, though, we're working really closely with MDE on any of the other permits related to that, sediment and grading, et cetera. And so we're providing them information on how changes to forests could impact water quality.
Right.
So it's not necessarily baked into our forest conservation plan as much as it is more baked into the overall approach of permitting for the site.
And then you raised the forest delineation. What is that?
So that's basically, in layman's terms, that's how we basically, this is how I think about it. If you look at the site, what are the areas that are considered forest? And then the forest conservation plan really is, what are the mechanisms we can use to protect that? And it might be just protecting it, not making any impact to that. It could be mitigating that loss with different plantings. It could be paying into a fee in lieu for plantings elsewhere. If the county has one, it could be a forest bank. So there's a wide range of ways that we're looking to protect the amount of forest that was originally on the site.
And does that have to be updated? Does a county's forest delineation or the forest delineation related to development, is that updated?
So
It's project specific.
yeah, it's project specific.
Okay,
Yep.
okay,
Yep.
all right.
So we're looking at site by site.
So those ordinances that I was mentioning, they could go different ways.
Right.
Most of the Forest Conservation Act provisions, as the secretary said, 95% of them are going through that local ordinance.
Okay.
And so your forest stand delineation and your forest conservation plan are for a particular site.
And and this is the last one on the forest delineation, does the department administer or I guess, do you monitor the requirements? Is there a review, or does the review only happen if a project is happening in a forested area?
So yeah, so we have overall kind of management of forests. So we look at canopy across the state. We track changes there at kind of the state level and the county level. For this, what we're looking at, it's actually the permits. The permit reviewer for the county is ensuring that they're compliant with that permit that the local county issued. So we, the department, are not going out and saying, okay, they're in compliance. But the local permitter, because they have permit authority, they're making sure that they have met the requirements that are set in the forest conservation plan as part of the permitting for that development.
And then we use the
if
biennial
the
review
permitting does not meet the plan, what happens?
I think that's dependent on the different counties, kind of where it is in their process. And a lot of times that will just be sent back to the developer to create a new plan. And as Dr. Harrison-Strangs mentioned, we also do a biennial review. So we are then going out and we're reviewing the programs, we're reviewing their methodology for review. So it's kind of like we're going out reviewing the reviewers' work as well.
Right.
So it's but we're not going out site by site is what I meant by that.
Unless it's state land.
Yep.
Okay, so locals have their own forest conservation plans that they enact through their zoning and ordinances. Would that
Ordinance.
Yep.
be correct?
Yep.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Yep.
Okay, keep going.
All right. So next I wanted to touch on a couple of the audit findings. And the first one I wanted to touch on is actually directly related to the Forest Conservation Act. And we identified two issues. Both kind of had similar roots. And that root is we were using paper and we were filing in boxes. And so what would happen is if we had when we had kind of the paperwork come in letting us know how much someone had paid into fee in lieu for the state, how much plantings they had done, we had that paper copies. We have now gone fully cloud. We went through, we pulled all of the paper records, and we've gone through and ensured that if money was paid into the fee in lieu, it's either been used for planting, is scheduled for planting, or we'll return it to the locals. And I think where we are now is that we feel we have addressed this. I know it was a repeat finding, but by moving to a cloud-based approach and frankly a 21st century accounting approach, we've been able to ensure now, we believe strongly that we've been able to ensure that we've met all of the the outstanding issues related to, especially to fee and lieu, but that will be, and we're in a good place now moving forward to not only be able to track that, but report it back to the legislature accurately. And then the other thing I just wanted to point to too is, that really, we also didn't have, I think, a very well-established process that we could then communicate out. We have done that as well. So it's we've put together how you do the thing, where we store it, where we're going to store it long-term, and then how to sort through it so that we can report back to the legislature. So this was a major improvement for us and also has significantly reduced the number of bankers boxes in the forestry department. The next is the Woodland Incentives Fund. We've been working very closely with SSTAT and with the Comptroller's Office on this. This might be one of the most complicated things that I have come across in my time as the secretary. So just very briefly how this works. When a transaction happens transferring land that has woodland, there is a requirement to pay into a transfer tax component. That then, they pay a certain amount to the counties. The counties then, if they are registered in MALF, they would send 25% of that to the comptroller, which would go into the Mel Nolan Fund. If they are not registered in MALF, they send 75% of that. That sounds like it's probably pretty clear. But the problem is the way SSTAT tracks and reports this, they are looking at the total amount that is paid by through the real estate transaction to the county, and the comptroller is looking how much money comes in to the comptroller's office. And so what we have identified is we need to put more process in place so that everybody is on the same page of who's paying 25%, who's paying 75%, because right now, without that mechanism built in, it means that we are not sure exactly how much we should be getting out of the fund every year. So we're working with the Comptroller's Office and SSTAT to ensure that when moving forward, that's well known on the Comptroller side, how much they should be receiving based off of how much was paid into. And an example of this is in Cecil County, I believe. Yeah, in Cecil County, they paid $325,000 in the ag land transfer tax, but only $81,000 of that was remitted to the comptroller. And we saw that discrepancy and thought, what's going on? Well, it turns out they're enrolled in MALF. So only the $81,000 was required to be transferred over to the comptroller's office and then rolled into Mel Nolan. The Mel Nolan Fund, by statute, we cannot take anything over $200,000. Everything else would be transitioned back to some other agencies like Department of Agriculture for ag protection. And the funding goes to a wide range of things, woodland management, and then also some of our educational programs for people seeking careers in natural resources. So the Natural Resource Camp is one of them. So it's an incredibly important program. And I think this is one that now understanding the process, we're going to be able to work much more effectively with SSTAT and the Comptroller's Office to ensure that what's coming to Mel Nolan is what's supposed to come to Mel Nolan. And then we can track and report that back. I think that we've had a lot of conversations with them, and I think what we got to is really the disconnect had been SSTAT provides that information, just exactly how much comes out of the transfer tax, and the comptroller provides us the funding, and then it shows up as a major mismatch. But what we're working with them on is how we align that in future moving forward so that process is easier to understand, and that the funds that come in, there's the rationale for it, and they align directly to what we're supposed to be receiving into Mel Nolan.
Senator Washington?
Yes, that was a lot.
Yeah.
So is this related to so we have a TDR program, so a transfer of development rights, right? For the transfer of property. And what is this, yeah.
So this is
this program?
Yeah, this is the agricultural transfer tax.
So it's a tax.
Yeah.
So it's a tax when agricultural land is.
In this case, forested land, yeah.
Okay,
is
forested land is preserved.
Is transferred. So
It's transferred
yeah.
to.
Developed, yeah.
Transferred to be developed. Okay. And is there also one to transfer for preservation? Do we have that?
We do. So we do have an easement program, which that extinguishes your development rights. So that's a way to long-term protect a property. If you're going to transfer it, you could put an easement on the property first. It doesn't fit in this same bucket, though.
Right. So what's the difference between an easement Yeah, what's an easement?
Yeah, so an easement would be extinguishing the development rights to preserve. So if you have a piece of high-value forest or agriculture, by selling that easement to the state, you are preserving that property as it is. So if it is, the next time it is sold, it won't be developed. It would stay in agriculture or it would stay in farmland.
I would see.
Or
So this
forest land.
so this provides, is there a tax benefit on this transfer?
So for the easement program, there is actually a payout from the state. We're
Okay, so
basically
they
paying
pay.
you.
Now, do they pay taxes? I knew there was a payment. So if the state purchases ag land for the purpose of extinguishing development rights, does the landowner pay taxes on that?
So we're not actually purchasing the land. We're just paying for the development rights.
Do they pay taxes on the development rights?
I would have to check. I'm not 100%
Okay,
sure on that.
All right, thank you.
Okay, we're going to,
Typically, they would get ag use assessment.
Yeah, yeah, we can follow up. It's ag use assessment. It's, yep.
okay, Senator Simonaire?
Thank you for being here. Really appreciate all the work you've done on this. And first, I want to give a shout out to Lydia. I've been working with her for the last 6 months on several bills. She's been very professional, so you got a good employee there.
Awesome, thank you.
So I read the audit. I think it was like 30 pages or something like that. And so this one bullet item here is addressing one of the issues. And it basically says the department will ensure the money that's supposed to go into the woodland fund will get there. And I think DNR agreed with that and they were going to work on it. So the bullet item says you've done extensive work to clarify the process. So at the high level, are you at this point, almost a year later, confident that the numbers will be right going forward?
I think, yes, and I think it's because we recognize now that we need to align the SStat and comptroller numbers so that when we, the department, looks back, because otherwise it would require us to go kind of, county by county and transaction by transaction. And I think by having processes in place, and we're still working with the comptroller and SStat on what those would look like, but we would work with them to have those processes so we would know, okay, money coming in from X county should be 25% of what SStat's reporting, should be 75% of what SStat's reporting. And that way we would be able to, as the department, clarify all of the numbers. We would see what comes out of the comptroller's office. We could look back and say, that is correct, or that's that's underfunded or overfunded, whatever it might be. But by having that mechanism for the county percentages to compare against SStat, we'd be able to then be able to do that confidently.
Okay. And we're one of the oversight committees on this fund. So I started looking back, and I started in 2018, and I read the report. And then there was a 6-year gap of this legally required report to our committee. And then we received one in 2024, and we received one again this year, or 25, December. So one of the questions is, not you personally, but the department, what assurances that we won't have another 6-year gap? What process have changed to ensure that we as the oversight committee will be getting this report?
Yeah, and I think that's going to be us coming back to you with that exact process, right? And saying, this is exactly how we're going to do it, so that in the future, if there is a gap, you could ask us, why aren't you following X, Y, and Z? And you could go to the comptroller or SStat and say, has DNR been asking you the right questions, et cetera? I think it's really clarifying the roles of all three of our agencies and entities in order to ensure that we can track that fund, because it's a major priority for us to continue to fund those, especially the career development pieces. That's something we sorely need in the natural resource space.
Okay, and then the other thing, information I'm receiving, which kind of lines up with the audit, is it's in the millions of dollars. And the fund has a cap of 200,000, and it's not receiving that cap. I can't find the last time it received 200,000. Do you know when the last time it got up to 200,000?
2019.
2019. Yep. So for the last 6 or 7 years, it hasn't got that. But I'm seeing numbers where it's in the millions of dollars. And even if it was 25%, that still exceeds 200,000. So do you have numbers now that can verify or show? I think it was the last couple of years, it was 400,000 some short. Are you confident in those numbers, and can you share them with us now?
Yeah, we're still working through and making sure that they're accurate, but we will share those numbers that we have with you all.
Can we get those before we're out of session?
Yes, we can get those before you're out of session, yeah.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Okay, seeing no further questions, continue. Secretary.
All right, and then the next thing we wanted to discuss too, and we've touched on this a lot, but really a lot of this comes down to permit streamlining when it comes to FCA. And I think what we're excited about with the new plans and with working with the localities is that they'll be able to better embed FCA into other permitting processes so that we can move faster and help them move faster. And we've also created an interagency review through the Governor's Coordinated Permitting Review Council. And that's really helped us, especially when we have the issues of sediment erosion control. Maybe it's an MS4 permit as a development happens. And actually, to the senator's point, to Senator Washington's point, that helps us better think about the impacts holistically. And so we're excited about that body. And then again, a lot of this really, the importance of this program being so much local control, right? 95% of these are approved by the locals. So ensuring that what we're providing for them through the technical manual, through our regulations coming out this summer, directly impacts and directly informs what they need. So it's been a major focus for us, has been working closely with them. And a thank you to Mako. We hosted basically like a town hall, but an opportunity for counties, planners, whoever's interested to participate in some working sessions to better understand that. We had the most recent one in January. And so I did want to end here with 5 million trees. We're incredibly proud of this program. This year, we saw, as you can see on the screen, we're starting to see rather large numbers. But I think the thing that we're most encouraged by is the amount of increase we're seeing year over year compared to the previous. So at FY25, we saw a 53% increase in planting over 2024. And that really goes to aligning kind of the entirety of our pipeline. Our tree nursery, the native plants we needed, so the correct amount of supply. Working with community groups and nonprofits to develop plans that are actually resulting in much better survivability, and then also being able to provide that funding through the 5 million trees. This has also really led to some phenomenal partnerships. I did want to flag that one of the things that we are far ahead in the urban and suburban space, or in the suburban and rural spaces. But the urban spaces have been slightly more challenging. And one of the things that we found is not all of our programs, we have a piece of legislation that you might have already heard. You've already heard about the tree menace one, so I won't touch on that. But to better help support the long-term survivability in urban spaces and site preparation, when you look at our urban communities, we've got really good tree planting plans, but they themselves actually don't necessarily have the capacity staff to be able to plant and to maintain those trees. So we've been working closely with them, and I think with changing some of our other state programs to be able to fund those capacity pieces, we'll continue to see that those increases line up that we've seen in the suburban and rural spaces in the urban spaces as well. And then I just did want to highlight quickly one of the state lands, and that's Seneca Creek State Park. We planted over 80,000 trees at 5 locations. And if you look, we're really able to focus them in state lands to where they're going to have maximum benefit. So you see here is reforestation of edge habitat, which is great for wildlife. It's great for water quality. And so we've been very much focused on our properties of also using those as demonstration sites. Then we can bring out the locals. We have a fantastic partnership with Howard County now to do tree plantings with them, where we're really working on front end kind of planning and site preparation. And I think we are going to continue to see that growth moving forward. And then we have over 209,000 trees planted for this spring on over 300 acres of forest, and there's a map here. So we're really excited about that, but really cumulatively, the takeaway here is through 2025, we're over 1.5 million trees planted, and we feel confident that we will meet the statutory goal for that program. Just some other graphics that I don't need to go into, but I'm happy to answer any questions on that program or anything else you all are interested in related to forests.
Okay, let's go to Vice Chair Kagan, then to Senator Washington.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Secretary Kurtz, thank you to you and your team for your leadership. Before I had turned the page, I saw that you had talked about planting events in Anne Arundel, in Baltimore City, Wicomico, and in Charles. And then thank you for including Seneca in districts 15 and 17. Have there been big planting events that have gotten publicity so our constituents are aware of the great work that you're doing? Have they been done in all 24 counties?
We have not gotten to every county yet, correct? Or not the big ones?
Big events?
Yeah.
Probably not every county, but you can see on the
And could you please speak into the mic? Thanks.
I don't know that we've had large events in every county, but we've had planting, we're really trying to lead with the communities.
Yes.
And so we are having partnership events in every county.
So in all 24 jurisdictions, there have been trees planted, and hopefully in partnership with counties and municipalities.
Nonprofits, school systems, a wide range, yep.
Perfect.
Oh, yeah, it's been wonderful.
Thank you. And Madam Forester, State Forester, first woman ever State Forester, very proud. Just a quick question, the maintenance, what is, how demanding is that? How expensive is that? How much time and effort is needed once you plant a tree? You said that you've maintained them for 2 years to date and have 3 to go. And then I remember Senator Gallion asking a lot of questions when we were doing the tree planting thing. Is maintenance, is what does it take to maintain? And last question, sort of what percentage actually die that need to then be replaced or otherwise handled?
Yeah, so I think the great thing about this program is it gives us the flexibility to do maintenance dependent on where you are, right? As the Senator just said, some places mowing is critical, deer damage protection by putting the tree covers over them. In other spaces, it's going to be watering. In other places, it's going to be invasive species control, deer browse control. So by having a funding mechanism that allows us to work, across all of those management opportunities, we're really able to tailor that to the site itself.
Okay.
And I think that's one of the reasons we've been really successful. And I don't know, you guys have the latest survivability?
85%.
And that's 85% is a significantly high number for survivability.
And last question, Mr. Chair. After 5 years, the tree is in good shape and we don't have to worry about deer or water. It's good on its own. It's grown up enough, basically.
By age 5, that's when we really see the mortality kind of flatten out.
Okay.
You've developed the root system, and you're usually looking at pretty healthy stock by then.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Thank you. I don't have the expertise that Senator Gallion does, so basic questions, but really helpful answers.
We can tell you all you want about maintenance.
Excellent.
It
I can
sort of
put one in
doubles
the
the
ground
cost.
and put some water on it. That's my level of expertise. So thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Senator Washington?
Thank you. You may know, I think you do know, that this committee, I know prior to becoming a legislator, I worked with the Parks and People Foundation. And so I'm really happy about recognizing the importance of not only planting the trees, but assessing the capacity of the community to maintain the trees. There was nothing more sad than to plant a bunch of trees and then come back and they're all, just little spindles and essentially firewood. So do you do an assessment of the capacity of, how is that part of what you do is to ascertain whether or not, while well-meaning, like the vice chair here, they might not quite have the time or skill set to really, support the tree.
Yeah. So
how does that work?
Yeah, so we're really doing that on the front end, and this program has allowed us to build really robust partnerships. And I think the schoolyard forest is an example of one of the newer ones that we have. But the good thing about it is when you look at, we'll take Baltimore City, for example. They've got a set of goals, but they also have done their own analysis of the capacity that they have internally to maintain trees. And so we'll work off of whatever the locality has put forward in terms of what their capacity is. And then we help figure out what's the gap. Can we help you fill it? And if not, maybe we're just providing trees to meet that exact number that they're looking for. But really, it is about building that level of relationship. We've significantly expanded staff to be able to do that. I mean, Ashley's team is doing a fantastic job of just getting out and understanding the problems and also understanding where are we just falling short of what maybe the goal is for a local community.
So Ashley, so you go on site. So because we got briefed by MES, and I didn't realize they actually went out and helped municipalities and counties really do the work. And do we have a similar model when it comes to trees?
We do, yeah. I would love to add that the 5 Million Tree Initiative has allowed us to build staff capacity such that, like Secretary Kurtz said, our staff can provide community organizations, neighborhood associations with the technical support that they need to build the planting plan, do a site assessment, see what's actually needed, talk to the community members, see what they would like in the community. And then we also help them through the grant process to connect them to the necessary funding to actually carry that planting through.
That's great.
Part of the focus of the Chesapeake Bay Trust Urban Tree Program is in that urban underserved area that where we're really, trying to emphasize, which has been amazing. And they're very clear in the fact that they're looking for people to address the maintenance costs in the funding. And and they can ask for community support as part of that. And in addition, we've had some Inflation Reduction Act funding that we have awarded to communities to help build capacity to further enhance the ability of the communities to really lean into this work and join in workforce.
Workforce, exactly. So this one probably we'll have more discussion of it when your bill is forward, but you brought up the permitting streamlining. So there's a little tension here. And so we're planting trees. Do we measure what we're conserving? So if you can also, what trees, are we protecting? What forests, urban forests, or natural habitats are we protecting? Not just mitigating, because I think we should contemplate that mitigation should not be the goal. If it's that there'll be some situations where you can't mitigate the harm. So I'm not going to ask you to agree necessarily, but I'll just say, don't you agree? So in this mitigation flexibility, something that has happened to date is the use of variances to our Federal Conservation Act at the local level. I just want to highlight or draw attention to that in the process of streamlining, that it's not just essentially wiping out requirements or adherence to local ordinances or to state ordinances, which our preliminary review of some in different counties, there's some variance rates of like 60, 70, 80% on some of these very specific requirements. Is that, I'd like to see us address that and make sure that that doesn't happen, because keeping a tree that's 50 years old, 100 years old, we can't possibly plant enough trees to replace that impact on climate.
Yep, and one thing that's important to note too, and we do track that. So we're tracking what's planted, what's lost, we're tracking what's preserved, and we do that through our no net loss program. So there is also a no net loss statute in the state of Maryland. Okay. And so that's kind of like our ability to like say, let's zoom out, right? FCA, individual parcel, no net loss, let's zoom out and look at it county by county, state by state, region by region to ensure that we are not losing forest cover. That's really the way that we're able to do that, which is, I guess, is separate because it's not as fine scale, but it does give us that long-term trend analysis that we can then inform counties with and things like that when we do their programmatic review for things like FCA.
Well, if I guess what I'm saying is that there are variances, like are there criteria for variances that protect the natural resource? Yep. I mean, this is a real concern, Mr. Chair and committee, around this permitting, streamlining approach that what I've observed and have experienced in my district and in other places, is just frankly ignoring state law that we have allowed or have that counties have promised to help the state fulfill its goal, its climate goals, its stormwater management goals, and then saying, never mind, you don't have to do this because it might cost more, or we don't want to hold, it'll take more time, or, yeah. So if the rules in state law about how things are supposed to be checked, if that doesn't happen, outside of going a lawsuit, which no one wants to do, what's our responsibility, or what's the county's or the state responsibility in assessing that or ensuring adherence to the legislative intent?
Yeah, yeah, and the no net loss of forest is a statutory mandate on the department, so we are tracking and reporting on that. But I do think you touch on there's an intermediate piece that we still work on, and I think that really comes into the conversations we're having with our colleagues at MDE. You know, one of the great things about DNR is we have the environmental review program, and so that is a group of natural resource planners that they work with MDE on permits and things like that. So they're able to look at specific site level information and then also think within the context of no net loss and things like that. So. I'm happy to kind of, if you want to have a side conversation, we can talk through environmental review too. I think that's a space where we really try to make sure that we're staying on top of those bigger impact areas.
Well, I just would like us to try to address it, you know, in law.
Absolutely.
And this issue of, we don't have to, really, right now, if a community feels or observes a violation or a decision, they have to go to court rather than perhaps there could be some administrative review, internal review, that the permits that are being issued are really adhering to the intent of the law and intent, because otherwise, why are we doing it?
No, understood, absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, thank you.
Okay, any additional questions for the secretary? Okay, seeing none, I guess that wraps it up on our briefing from DNR. Thank you, Ms. Secretary and team, for coming in today. And folks, okay, we're next up, we've got a 1 p.m. an additional briefing followed by bill hearings. So you are now officially on break until 1 p.m. Okay, this meeting is hereby adjourned.